Hey YouTube world, and hey to my Neville Nation and my fellow Law of Assumption Journey members. It's me, Neville Girl, coming to you again with another wonderful episode. This is going to be a bonus video, and I am very excited to share lots of details today, some extra bonus material. So stick around to the very end. If you're new, welcome. And I sprinkle all kinds of extremely helpful tips and hacks that have totally been working for me with stories to back it up. So stick around, you're not gonna wanna miss it, as most of you know who aren't new. But if you're new, welcome, say hello, drop an emoji. So, because on this channel, we make our dreams come true. I've claimed this for me and it's working for me, and I am claiming it for you. So let's dive into your bonus video about how I manifested $1 million cash. I'm not going to go back into the whole video. You'll have to go back to that one. It's my most previous episode I did. This is a tagging off of that and some things I wanted to share because I think it's going to be eye-opening to you, some of the details I'm going to share today. So number one, I shared two significant stories. First one was the $1 million cash back in the 2008 crashing real estate market economy. That was very exciting. I'm going to share the back story and what that means to you. And also, I gave the details about the universal secret check and how that has worked for me. And I encouraged you to fill one out and see how that goes for you as well, because I gave you the details. So if you watched my previous video, raise your virtual hand if you figured out the technique I used there, because I did share it with you by telling the story, but I didn't point it out specifically. So here we go. And this is super important. Again, another reason why I'm a Neville girl, because the answer to it is, number one, I was using the power of I am by telling my SB during these couple of years leading up to this event that I was going to be a millionaire. This is what I'm doing. This is what I know, because I was feeling the end state. Now, here's what I went back and looked up for you, because I didn't have a recall. I just do these videos kind of on the fly. Sometimes I take notes. So I had to go back, and actually I wanted to look up what my inspirations were at the time to get me into that state of mind, because I was not familiar with Neville. Neville's new to me. If you're new here, I discovered Neville last spring, and that's when it all clicked for me. It's like it all made sense. Why I manifested really huge things, and then also why I didn't know how I was doing it. It all came together for me last spring. So here are the significant things that I was following, listening to, that got me into the end state, because SATS, the state akin to sleep, which is Neville's cornerstone technique for living in the end and manifesting, it's not the only way to live in the end. It is a fantastic way. So these were the materials I was using, or what I was into. So during that time, The Secret had rolled out in 2006. So who wasn't excited about that? Of course, when you really get into it, we'll do a little thing about The Secret sometime, but when you get into it, there's a lot of things not shared, and that creates some confusion. So you start thinking you're going to think a couple of happy thoughts and you're going to manifest all this stuff. But I was excited about that. And I was also listening to some Louise Hayes. You know, she's like an OG. And Wayne Dyer, I was always a big fan. And I am going to reorder this book because I don't know where it is, but this, I believe, was one of the biggest influences during that time. It is a book called I'm Rich Beyond My Wildest Dreams. I am. And it's by Tom and Penelope Polly. It's still available on Amazon. I'm ordering a new copy because we're going to go into it on a different episode related to kind of scripting and journaling, and how I've kind of blended this book. I never stopped this technique, but I was very excited about it when it came out, and it really influenced me. So there's a hot tip of the day. fantastic book. But if you don't have time to order it, don't want to order it, cool, because I'm going to be going over it shortly here, and how I do my scripting / journaling and Neville style. But it started with this book, and I believe that was a great influence. So that is your bonus number one part of this video, was what put me in the state I was living in the end. Because, my friends, when the $1 million cash on the barrelhead was right there live, it was a natural. I wasn't like, oh my God, it's $1 million cash. No. And so I'm going to share the back story so you can kind of see how a couple of years evolved into it being natural. By the time it rolled into my life, it just was natural. Even though economy was crashing and burning, and we did have friends during that time who were in similar positions, but they didn't fare as well. And of course, I don't know what beliefs or practices they were following. I just know that living in the end is what caused us to prosper during this crazy time. And one of the things was the $1 million. Other things were involved as well. So here's the back story. And I will also add that I've mentioned before, when Neville Goddard's family, who was very, very dirt poor, they were very dirt poor. And when they came across this technology, this information, it took them, I believe, a couple years visioning, seeing. I believe they had wanted to, there was a store, they saw themselves, like they would vision that this store was theirs. They saw their family name on the awning. A lot of things that they kept on doing. And I believe that they became almost like billionaires at the time. And it was the rest of his family that was really doing it. And then eventually Neville got into it. He had his own little journey at first. And then once he finally got into it, if I'm understanding the stories correctly, because I've not read all his material, I've gotten kind of stuck on Your Faith is Your Fortune. So that right there, my friends, is an amazing book. And we will get into that. But anyway, it took a couple years. And then I realized when I finished my last episode, it took me a couple years too. But I'm going to share the details because it'll show you how it escalated by living in the end, inspired action, which we don't always know we're taking inspired action, but it feels right. And I was in the state of what feels expansive, what feels possibilities. Those are key words. If something feels expansive, if something feels like a good opportunity, if something feels just like, I'd like to check it out, it's curious, it just has a good feeling to it, quite often it might be part of a bridge of incidents. And I know I've done a video about that before. We're going to keep talking about this because you don't have to do 5 million techniques. You don't. There's just a couple of key things. And living in the end, I believe, is one of them. That's why I love Neville so much. So, backstory. So, this is, for those of you who actually watched last video, this is the actual time that my mom passed away. And there was some insurance money. And thinking back, it was also maybe around $50,000 on my end. And so during that time, I decided to rent a room while I was going to be house hunting. And I rented a room with a school teacher, very nice. She loved to read a lot. So she thought people coming and renting rooms, it was kind of like enjoying reading a book. She felt like people were characters. She wanted to learn more. Anyway, she had a girl's side and a guy's side because she had people coming and going in general. So when I started, it was all gals. Then one evening when I came home, and yes, this is part of all the bridge of incidents, there was a gentleman there signing a new lease for a little while. And it turns out this guy was a realtor, and he was needing a room because he had sold one house that he had finished building, but the next one wasn't done yet. So he was going to be there for a while. Okay, so that's cool. It turns out, as we spent more time, that he had some functions that he needed a +1 to. And so he'd bump into me, so like, hey, I need a +1. Are you interested? Cool. We did. He was a nice guy. We started to find out we had some things in common. And then Also, he started to find out things like, okay, I like to garden. I like to do landscaping. So as more projects were coming up for him, he was like, hey, you know what? I think I need a little landscaping help at one of my properties that I'm looking to sell. Could you come and help me out? Or take a look and tell me what you think. It started like that. Okay, then maybe like another time down the road, his assistant couldn't show up to an open house. Hey, could you hand out flyers? Could you help me with that? Or could you help me restock flyers? Okay, so you can see things were building along. So, whereas I thought I was going to be house hunting and this was an opportunity, like with a realtor, to look at houses, it started to evolve into something else. Okay, so we started working on some projects together. Then, as things grew and time progressed, it was like, oh, hey, you know what? Actually, I have some investors coming to town. Would you like to help me host these people? So I started to become familiar with his investors and become more familiar with the investing world and more familiar with the projects and like just bigger money conversations. And all this time, I'm studying, living in the end. Now, I had some passion projects I was working on my very own because we mentioned it before. I hear it. I'm so glad I hear it on many channels. But, and Abraham Hicks will say this as well. Go have fun. So I was a runner at that time. I loved to go to the gym. I had some passion projects, and I had one passion project that I believed was going to be my $1 million idea. So that was kind of also part of the inspiration. I thought that was going to be it. I was living in the end. That's where I thought it was, but I also was just possibilities. Now, the other part of that backstory was, as I got to know other realtors in his sphere, sometimes they would be like, hey, we have a move out or a move in. Could you help clean that? And I actually like cleaning. So I was like, sure. And they paid me really, really well. I got familiar to doing that. And some more people within their network were like, hey, could you do that for us as well? It was nice, gorgeous chunks of money. And I thought, well, these were possibilities. I was in the flow. I wasn't like, oh, cleaning or, don't want to get my nails dirty. I love my nails, but I've never had a problem getting them dirty. And I wasn't judging anything. I just was in the flow of the field of possibilities and just looking at the next thing that was coming my way and saying, why not? Really, why not? If something didn't feel right, no, but why not? So that also inspired me to kind of pursue some additional cleaning clients. And I was making really good money doing that. So I was in the flow. I was taking advantage of lots of opportunities and I was growing as a person. The landscaping projects grew. The requests for helping what ended up turning into my SP grew. The conversations about money grew. You can hear me growing. So that by the time like 2 years had gone by, and we were a solid thing, and we were now in the multi-million-dollar mansion. And I was grooming and landscaping. And if you missed the first story, it's a very adorable story how the $1 million came about, because it all came down to some neighborhood kids who had nicknamed me Pinky the Princess, who lives in the castle. That was their interpretation. But anyway, that was the backstory. Can you hear how I was growing and my vision was growing? Now, I didn't think that was going to be it at the very beginning. I had my eyes set on a different project, which actually turned out really well. It had some bumps and it didn't end up being the thing, but it did end up turning into its own little sweet story. It was related to my mom, and I'm sure I'll share it at another time about that passion project. But that's what happened. So by the time that couple was at my front door, knocking, saying, hey, we want to live here because those are our grandkids. Here's $1 million cash, everything's crashing. This house may not even be worth that, but we want to live here. By the time that was happening, $1 million was staring me right in the face. It didn't feel unnatural. It felt natural. Do you see all the bridges of incidents? That, my friends, is what I wanted to share with you today. And that is part of the bonus. And you want to hear the crazy part? As much as, and this is gonna it tickles me when I think about it, so it might tickle you too. During this whole time, as I'm learning and growing and I'm doing my journaling, because again, we're gonna get into that book, I was thinking to myself, like, there's the part of me that's saying, yeah, I'm gonna be a millionaire. I am a millionaire. I'm gonna be a millionaire. I think like a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. But part of me was like, yeah, and I just wish I knew how to manifest. I mean, I wish I really knew how to manifest. So we're going to go into that timeline real quick, because the silliness of that, because I was most of the time in my delusion, because like you got time while you're running, you got time when you're passion projects, you're thrown into things you're not really worried about much. But during that, I'd occasionally be like, these things are cool and all, but I wish I knew how to manifest. Hello? Anyway. Because here is my little timeline thing that I pulled out the other day, which is the quantum timelines. And in the field of possibilities, I said the matrix, but really the field of possibilities. So, there's the version of you that has the thing that you want, just the way you are envisioning it. And then there's all these other versions of you. So I was lining up. It doesn't always come with a neon flashing sign. So there was possibilities popping into my life. And so it was possibilities. And as I was just taking them, like, yeah, you're going to pay me that to clean this moving out or whatever. Absolutely. Okay, why not? And it just, one thing turned into another. So all of those things was bringing me closer to the timeline, was me with $1 million. Now, I'm sure there was many other versions that could have happened. There could have been a version that would have ended up me with my passion project, but I ended up aligning to the version that happened with my SP and our passion projects together. And that makes sense too, but you never know. So there was a version of me, I'm quite certain, in the field of possibilities that would have been my passion project. But is it okay that it didn't happen that way? Absolutely. Because I didn't really know how it really was going to look like in the end. I just was determined, yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire. I am a millionaire. And SP, as I mentioned before, I thought, I love you. That's a little crazy talk, but I love you. So, and you're incredible for everything that you add to the projects, to my life. So, it's positive thinking at the very least, right? So I wanted to leave that with you. And I also, just for those who did not watch the last video, and I highly encourage it, plus go back and watch What the Heck is Manifesting Anyway, because we are moving forward with discussing the timelines. So there probably could have been 1,000 different timelines how that $1 million happened. But according to the steps I was taking and things that felt like possibilities and just were feel-good projects to me, that's what ended up manifesting in that particular time frame. So we also talked about the secret universal check. That is something we go into in the previous video. And then I'm going to leave this with you, is the Lewis Howes little tidbit that he was experimenting with. So the saying is, money comes to me abundantly and freely, and I see it everywhere. So this is what I'm doing right now with that. I've kind of taken and made it my own, and I encourage you for the next couple months, just whenever you have a pause moment throughout your day, or if you just need a reset, I've kind of changed it. I say it now in my mind, money rushes to me in avalanches of abundance, easily, effortlessly, freely, and without lifting a finger. And I see it and experience it everywhere in my life right now. It's good to have these little statements. Go back to commanding your morning, but those things, whatever you are thinking about, is setting a frequency, setting a tone. So for those of you who are encouraged by my last stories, it's really great to have a few mantras in your brain. And we're going to get into many other techniques, but you don't need a million of them. But if you just said something like that in your brain throughout the day while you're driving. So this has been a part of your bonus video. I'm excited about this mantra for right now, and I appreciate that Lewis Howes on his Lewis Howes show shared that, because I think it's a very valuable focused affirmation. So there is plenty more coming up. The next couple episodes are going to be more about, I'm going to show and prove to you that you are a master manifester. We're going to get into that deep, and mastering your mindset is going to be another part, and that's probably going to be a series. So with all that said, I think that's plenty for today. And if you've enjoyed the content, please like, share, and subscribe. I share all this free and I hold nothing back. So I don't know where you are in the world today or what you are trying to manifest, but I'm holding a space and I've claimed that it's already come true for you. And until the next time, manifest something wonderful, manifest something magical. You got this. Bye.